The rain had not stopped for 3 days. It poured over the glittering skyline of New York, washing the glass towers until they looked like ghosts hidden behind curtains of water. Near the edge of Central Park, where luxury hotels stood beside forgotten alleys, 12-year-old Noah Bennett pulled his thin jacket tighter around his trembling body. The jacket had belonged to his late father and was now 2 sizes too big, with "Subscribe to my" chainly patched elbows and a broken zipper. His shoes were soaked through, but he hardly noticed anymore. Hunger had become more familiar than comfort. Every morning before sunrise he delivered newspapers. Every afternoon he collected discarded bottles to sell for a few dollars. And every evening he returned to the tiny apartment where his sick grandmother waited with a smile that hid more pain than medicine ever could. Noah had long ago decided that no matter how hard life became, he would never steal, never lie, and never lose the kindness his grandmother insisted was the richest treasure a person could own. "Money comes and goes," she often whispered. "Character stays with you forever." Those words echoed in his mind as he walked toward the grand entrance of the Sterling Imperial Hotel, hoping to find empty bottles left by wealthy guests. At that very moment, 68-year-old billionaire Edward Sterling sat in the back seat of a black limousine watching people through tinted windows. Forbes magazine called him one of America's richest businessmen. Television praised him as a genius who had built an empire worth billions. Yet none of those headlines mentioned the loneliness that haunted him every night. 5 years earlier he had buried his only daughter after a tragic accident. Since then he had trusted no one. Employees smiled because they wanted promotions. Relatives visited only when they needed money. Charity organizations praised him while secretly competing for larger donations. Edward had begun to believe genuine kindness no longer existed. That belief slowly turned into an obsession. Every month he secretly disguised himself as an ordinary old man and wandered through the city, testing strangers. Some ignored him. Others mocked him. A few pretended to help only after noticing hidden security cameras. Each failed test made his heart colder. That rainy evening Edward had prepared one final experiment. Wearing worn-out clothes and an old gray coat, he dismissed his security team to watch from a distance. He carried an old leather wallet filled with family photographs instead of cash and lay down on a bench beside the hotel entrance, pretending to be asleep like a homeless man who had nowhere else to go. Rain soaked his clothes. His breathing remained slow and steady as he listened carefully to every passerby. Elegant businessmen walked around him without a glance. A young couple laughed and complained that he ruined the view. Someone even nudged his leg with an umbrella before hurrying away. Nearly an hour passed. Edward silently confirmed what he already believed. Compassion had become extinct. Then soft footsteps approached. Noah noticed the old man immediately. He stopped beneath the hotel awning, staring at the stranger lying motionless on the wet bench. For a moment he hesitated. His grandmother was waiting at home. The medicine shop would close soon. Every minute mattered. But another thought pushed itself into his heart. What if he's sick? Noah whispered. Without thinking twice, he crossed the rain-soaked pavement and gently touched the man's shoulder. Sir, can you hear me?" Edward remained perfectly still. Noah frowned. The old man's hands were freezing. He quickly removed his own worn jacket and carefully placed it over the stranger's body despite the cold. Biting into his own skin. "You need this more than I do," he murmured. Hidden across the street inside a parked van, Edward's security guards exchanged confused looks through binoculars. One reached for his radio, but their boss had ordered them not to interfere unless his life was truly in danger. Noah looked around desperately. Wealthy guests entered and exited the hotel while pretending not to notice. Gathering his courage, he ran inside. The marble lobby sparkled beneath crystal chandeliers. Expensive perfume filled the air. Noah's wet clothes drew immediate stares from guests. "I need help," he shouted. "There's an old man outside in the rain." The receptionist barely looked up. "He's probably another homeless person. Security will handle it, but he's freezing." "Young man, you're disturbing our guests." Two security guards approached. "You need to leave." "No. Please call an ambulance." One guard sighed impatiently. "We've already had complaints about him. Go home, kid." Noah's eyes filled with frustration. "If that was your father outside, would you leave him there?" The question silenced the guard for a second, but only for a second. Rules are rules. Noah walked back into the rain, his heart pounding with disappointment. He had expected adults to know better. Returning to the bench, he knelt beside the old man once more. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "They won't help." He reached into his pocket and counted his money. 6 crumpled $1 bills and a few coins. $7.43. That was everything he had earned after an entire day of work. It was supposed to buy his grandmother's medicine and a loaf of bread. Noah stared at the money for a long moment. His stomach growled. His grandmother's tired face appeared in his mind. Then he looked at the shivering old man. Without another thought, Noah stood and ran to the pharmacy across the street. The pharmacist recognized him immediately. "Noah, you're late." "I know. Can I buy one thermal blanket instead of the medicine? I'll come back tomorrow for Grandma's pills." The pharmacist looked surprised. "What happened?" "Someone needs it more." A few minutes later Noah returned carrying the cheapest emergency blanket he could afford. Carefully he wrapped it around the sleeping stranger, making sure every part of him was covered. Afterward he sat beside the bench to shield the old man from the wind with his own body. Hours passed. Rain continued falling. Noah's clothes became completely soaked. His teeth chattered from the cold. Still he refused to leave. Edward, keeping his eyes closed, felt tears threatening to escape for the first time in years. The boy had given away his jacket, his last dollars, and even sacrificed the medicine meant for his own grandmother, all for a stranger he believed would never repay him. The billionaire's carefully planned test had uncovered something he had spent years searching for but had almost stopped believing existed. A heart so pure that even unimaginable poverty could not make it selfish. And as midnight approached, Edward Sterling realized that before this night was over, both his life and the young boy's future would change forever.